What this man found in the forest was truly bizarre. A weirdly bald, tiny rabbit was hiding in one of the bushes. He couldn't make much sense of the animal's appearance, but when he brought the bunny to his local vet, he got this answer: this is definitely not a rabbit. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The well-trained dog was usually very quiet and hardly ever did anything unexpected. But now, the four-legged friend was uneasy. Louis saw his dog circling a particular bush repeatedly in the distance. It was like he was trying to tell his owner something. Louis ran over and inspected the spot where his dog sat, and that's when he saw it. Louis spread some of the branches of the bushes and immediately figured out why his dog was acting erratic. There was an animal hiding beneath the dense leaves of this bush, but it was the weirdest creature Louis had ever seen. What are you? The animal was extremely tiny, and what Louis noticed the most was that it was pretty much hairless all over its body. The tiny creature squealed like it desperately needed attention or food. She squealed and shivered, which made her appearance at that sight to behold. Maybe her parents died, or maybe she was abandoned for some reason. Louis spoke to his dog sadly. Louis couldn't go home and leave this helpless animal behind to suffer, so in the end, he chose to bring it with him. Once home, Louis placed the pink-bald creature on his kitchen counter. "What are you?" he uttered, confusion riddled all over his face. It looked like a small infant rabbit in a way, but if so, then there was something off about it. The baby was unable to open its eyes and looked hungry. "I cannot help you like this," Louis said, frustrated. He didn't know what the animal was or what it needed. Eventually, he called his local vet for help and an explanation. He discussed the situation and described the balding animal's appearance over the phone, and the vet seemed intrigued. "Could you come over? I want to look at the animal myself if that's okay with you," the vet said. Louis agreed and drove to the veterinarian's office with the presumed baby rabbit in his passenger seat. Once there, the doctor got to work straight away. A quick inspection was done, and even though Louis's conclusion that the infant was hungry was correct, other questions also arose within the doctor. The doctor injected the small animal with some much-needed fluids against dehydration and also proved a liquid form of substance. This remark surprised Louis, who at least thought he figured out the animal's species. "What is it then?" Louis asked. The vet rolled his chair over to the nearest computer and showed the confused Louis some pictures. With this information, he argued that this animal had no typical features a normal rabbit should have. It has larger ears and 4 legs, but that's it. When I ran my fingers over its belly and felt the organs, some also felt out of place. Louis listened to every word carefully and hoped that a clear answer to what this animal was would come soon, but disappointment followed. Louis agreed that the animal seemed fond of him as he stroked its bare back. "Perhaps you can take it home with you and nurture it for a while. Its determining features might appear if it regains some strength and grows a bit." Louis couldn't argue with this logic and agreed to the proposal. Louis drove home with the animal that day and started their journey of discovery, and it would be a strange one, with many weird surprises along the way. Their mission started great though. The mysterious rabbit-like creature ate for the first time, and as far as Louis could tell, it slept well. Louis's dog always slept in a separate part of the house, so he could use the dog's old dog basket as a sleeping place for the hairless creature. All of these things seemed to go perfectly, and the small critter became more and more playful. But by day 3, things started to change. Louis sat straight in bed and felt his heart rate go up significantly. He pushed his bed cover aside and ran down the stairs to see what was going on. At first glance, nothing seemed amiss, but when Louis made his way over to the back door of the house, he saw that it stood wide open. The confused man knew that he had closed it before bed, just like he always did, so seeing it open like that was strange. Louis turned his head around the corner and saw that his metal trash cans had tumbled over. "That's probably the loud noise I heard," he said calmly. The garbage bags inside the trash cans were completely ripped open, covering his entire patio with trash. "Annoying squirrels," Louis said, irritated, before turning around and locking the door properly this time. That next night, strange things again started happening. Louis heard loud noises coming from the downstairs area once more, and when the confused homeowner got there this time, he found his house in a complete mess. There was junk everywhere, and Louis noticed that his pantry had been plundered this time, and evidence was present all over his living room and kitchen. There were torn open food packages everywhere, and the innards of his ground coffee container were spilled all over the floor of his house. And this time, Louis saw that there were brown coffee footprints all over his floor. They acted like a stamp trail that ran all through his house, and some of them gathered around the sleeping area of his new bald attendee. "Did you really do this?" How could such an innocent-looking creature cause all this havoc? During the following weeks, Lewis watched the small animal like a hawk. He woke up every night to a mess in his house. And when that happened, he documented everything. Lewis also saw that the creature grew quite well. She wasn't just a tiny thing. He couldn't hold it in his hand anymore. The animal's weight and size increased at least quadrupled over a short period of time. And the baldness it had when he found her was slowly disappearing. The white fur grew darker, and it soon covered most of her body. She also became increasingly more playful, and Lewis noticed a bond growing between them. The only annoyance he found with the little critter was that at night, she was still quite active. Lewis would wake up to noises and find teeth marks on her furniture legs. Most of the time, there was some form of chaos down there, in the form of something being knocked over or broken. But that thought would not work out quite as planned, because the very same night he tried out this theory, the same thing happened again. Lewis woke up to a loud bang downstairs and sat straight in bed. The confused man looked at the dog basket beside his bed, and the creature was still there. She sat up straight, just like him, and looked at her new owner with open and kind eyes. If she wasn't doing this, then who did? Lewis swung his bedroom door open and ran downstairs. And when he reached his living quarters, he was met with a scene that left him in utter shock. Lewis was immobilized by confusion and doubt about what to do next. What he saw was something nobody could have prepared him for. His eyes were glued to the movement before him, so when the phone suddenly rang on the wall mount beside him, it gave him some initial jitters. The veterinarian stated that he was the one who could help on this occasion because he found out what kind of animal his bald-haired friend was. It's a Chinese naked wombat. They have a bit more hair when they are mature, but they are extremely rare in this region. But one thing still bothers me, Lewis. This animal hardly ever travels alone. Wombat families are tight-knit, and they always travel in packs, taking care of each other their entire lives. Lewis grinned for a moment and then took over the conversation. He said he knew, and was looking at the evidence for that now. Lewis still had the phone on his ear, but his eyes were pointed toward the ground, where a group of 6 playful, hungry, and fully grown wombats were scattering through his living room. Lewis explained what he saw, and the description made the vet laugh a bit. It also amazed him, and his half-covered furry companion left the bedroom because of it. She ran down the stairs and rejoined her wombat family. Lewis was in awe of the situation, but then he noticed something peculiar that immediately explained their entry to his home. Lewis followed the second small wombat into his kitchen, and there, an unexpected discovery was made. The wombat ran into his pantry and pushed a floorboard aside with its paw, and when he did, a small hole was seen leading straight beneath his house. Lewis never knew this floorboard was loose, but now he knew how this family of wombats got into his home. The truth behind this rampage mystery was finally revealed, combined with the identity of the bald animal he found, but it also came with the sad conclusion. It was illegal to own a wombat as a pet, and Lewis also did not want to keep his friend away from her family by keeping her. The vet came to Lewis's house, who kept the family of wombats indoors by gathering them in his garage and locking the door. They drove the furry family up to a location about 30 minutes away from his home. Once there, a woman opened the gate to a large wildlife sanctuary. "Welcome, guys," she said. Lewis greeted her and introduced the wombats to their new permanent home. They seemed to adjust to the lush green environment well from the start, but when Lewis took a few steps backward toward the excitement, his former bald pet started squealing loudly, not wanting Lewis to leave her side. And that's when the sanctuary owner came up with a wonderful proposition. It wasn't something they usually did, but given the circumstances, they could make an exception. She asked Lewis to come bi-weekly to visit his wombat friend, and without a slither of doubt in his voice, Lewis agreed instantly. It was the perfect middle ground that would satisfy all parties. He did not have to live in a trashed house anymore, and could still see the animal he grew attached to regularly. And the little wombat kept her owner in a way. After about 6 months, the little bald infant had fully grown up to an adult-sized wombat. She was happy and playful, and loved living in the sanctuary. Lewis was happy as well. He grew to be a very well-trained sanctuary staff member, and looked forward to his weekly visits every time.